Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 27 male marriage is in a really bad spot after a deep breach of trust. I don't know how to recover or how to trust my wife, 30 female, again. For some context, we've been together 7 years and married 5. We have a child, 2 male. We met at a con. I thought her cosplay was amazing, struck up a conversation, and the rest is history. She's the most loving, unselfish, and decent person I've ever met. Our relationship was never without its challenges. Our biggest obstacle was her family. My presence was unwelcome. They're very close-knit, and if one doesn't accept you, then you're not getting far. There are a few family members who broke away from the pack, but no one hardly acknowledges them. They're no contact and black sheep. I didn't know how my wife's family was, but I did know family was extremely important to her. Her whole upbringing was based on family, so I tried everything in my power to make it work. They didn't really put up with me until our son. Between our wedding planning to shortly before the wedding, I was the target of some relentless and vicious cyberbullying. It got personal. Fake bad reviews polluted my business profile too. It cost me some potential clients. I didn't know where it came from or why. I couldn't find a solution. I'd report, but it'd take a while for anything to be done, or there'd be more accounts coming out for another round. The whole thing impacted my life and my mental health. It took a toll. My wife was incredibly supportive. She was my rock and my best friend. I loved her even more for her care and how she held me down. Then the trolling and everything stopped. I wanted nothing more than to move on. I put it all behind me until the other day my wife confessed that her family was behind the harassment. I didn't believe her at first, but she was serious and showed me proof in their family group chat. It felt like I was right back there again. They were gloating and justifying themselves, saying stuff like, "Some people gotta learn the hard way, and if he wants to join the fold, here's his initiation." I knew I wasn't their favorite person, but I never realized they hated me and would go to such extremes. I asked my wife when did she find out and if she was a part of it. She swore she wasn't and that she'd never do that to me. She claimed she didn't initially know it was her family until a few months before our wedding. One of my sister-in-laws, 28 female, left a profile up on her phone, and my wife saw it. She confronted her family and made them stop. I asked why she was telling me everything now. She said it was weighing on her, and she opened up to her eldest sister, 35 female, one of the family's black sheep. She threatened to tell me the truth if my wife didn't. Nothing my wife said made it better. She knew for years what her family did and hid it from me. She kept everything quiet. It hurts more coming from her because she knew firsthand my pain. I was pretty numb. My wife was anxious and kept pushing for me to say something. I told her there wasn't anything she could say right now that would make it okay. What she did was no better than her family. They made my life hell, and her first instinct was to cover for them. She started crying and begged me to understand. She said it wasn't like that, and she was trying to make things right with as little damage as possible and mend relationships. I wasn't very receptive to her. She wasn't reaching me. I couldn't help her or myself. I told her I needed some time to clear my head. She was against it. She said we could work through this together, but I was firm on space. Space isn't a request she's respected. I'm really trying to understand her side. I'm trying to move past it, but I feel so betrayed. I trusted her more than anyone. I'm my most vulnerable with her. I kept opening up to her about the incident, even after she knew the truth. She encouraged me to let it go and not allow it to have any claim on me. I thought she had my best interest in mind. Now I just see it as her attempt to protect her family yet again. I haven't confronted anyone involved. I don't think they're worth it. But I've made it clear they're no longer allowed to see our son until further notice. Now I'm getting texts about how I'm depriving my child of grandparents and aunts over past family spats. One of the hardest parts is the distance from my wife. She's my best friend and partner in every way. Now we're mostly only communicating about our son and other household necessities. She's hurt by my rejection, and she's been crying often. IDK if I'm being unfair to her. I hate all of this. I want to make our marriage work, but I'm questioning our relationship up to now. I'm just really lost. I need an outside perspective. How do I navigate this situation and move forward for my marriage and myself? Her family crossed an unforgivable line. Cut them out of your life completely. You must forge your own path, and toxic people have no place in it. Wish you the best of luck. Sounds like a solid conversation, but maybe instead of referring to the sister-in-law as the black sheep, call her the most sane, unselfish person in the family. Everybody down to you wife is selfish in that bloodline. Your wife needs individual therapy before you do couples. She's so enmeshed with her family. She doesn't know who she is. This family is acting like a cult. I mean it. Their whole attitude of family over everything, keeping outsiders away, punishing members for daring to step out of line, and banishing them from the family. Your wife had to go through years of brainwashing. I would believe her when she says she was afraid to go against her family. Not to make any excuses for her, because not telling you the truth was wrong. But that she's now willing to set boundaries with her family is huge. She has years and years of therapy ahead of her to fix what these people broke. And I'm wishing both of you the best of luck. Update. Thank you to everyone who reached out. I wasn't able to reply to everyone, but it was appreciated. It solidified my wake-up call and helped me see I wasn't overthinking. I wanted to give an update. Earlier this week, my wife and I were able to regroup and hash stuff out. I was glad I took the space I did, because even though this situation is still hurtful and feels like a massive betrayal, I was in a better position to talk. My wife thought I was calling it quits, but I told her we were at a crossroads and needed to talk things out. She apologized for what her family did and her role in it. She said she never intended to hurt me. She had convinced herself she was protecting me from more pain. She realizes now she was largely protecting herself. She admitted she was afraid of telling me the truth because she thought it wouldn't just end the wedding, but that I'd end the relationship. She lost other relationships and friendships over her family. She didn't want to lose me too. Over the years, she wanted to tell me but kept talking herself out of it. And then the cover-up kept getting bigger, and she didn't know how to confess. I told her I didn't agree with her choices, and I wished she had more trust in me and our relationship. I meant it too. I wouldn't have just ditched her. She asked where do we go from here, and promised no matter the outcome, there wouldn't be any more secrets between us. I told her I wanted to work on our marriage, but things needed to change. We couldn't survive with her family looming, and I didn't want our son exposed to them. She asked what I needed of her. I was never big on ultimatums, and I don't really consider this as one. But I was adamant that any path of us moving forward together would mean radical boundaries with her family. She was honest that the thought of making this big of a move against her family was scary, but said if it's between them and us, our son, then she chooses us. Her agreement was major for me because I really didn't know where she'd land if she had to choose. I never wanted to put her in that position, but after everything her family did, I feel there was no other way. The reason I have hope that my wife is being for real is because she sent a text to their group chat stating to stop blowing up my phone and that the no access to our son until further notice is a joint decision she fully supports. I didn't expect that of her. She did it on her own. Of course, they didn't like it. Now she's labeled as disrespectful and ungrateful, and how the black sheep eldest sister and I are poisoning her against them. It was also said, what kind of man takes a woman away from her family over a spat? This isn't a spat, nor do I have anything to prove about manhood. They led a whole campaign designed to ruin my life. Their actions are chilling to me. These are the same people who looked me in the eye with a straight face while everything was going on. This is about protecting my family. My wife has gone low contact. Her family has this mindset that significant others or friends come and go, and it's family who is the constant and where loyalty should be. They can't seem to compute that my wife, our son and I are the core family. They're extended family, and they don't have a claim over our son. Being involved with him is a privilege, not a right. I don't know what their exact issue is with me. They only really tolerated me because of our son. When I first met them, one of my wife's siblings said they thought my wife was settling for me because of age, and that she could do better. They're a very tight-knit group, and if one doesn't take to you, then you're not getting far with the rest. It felt like once their minds were made up, There was nothing I could do. I've long since stopped trying to make sense of any of their reasonings. It's a rabbit hole. Our plan is to move to a new area to create a healthier distance, cement boundaries, and have a fresh start. I brought up therapy too. It's something we've been discussing. We'll be officially starting that soon. I think moving away will be beneficial for us. It's something my eldest sister-in-law had advised us on. During the wedding planning, she was encouraging my wife to move and create our own space away from their family's isolating circle. I know my wife is more than just her family. I've seen it firsthand. She shines so bright when away from their influence. That's what I meant when I said she was the most loving, unselfish, and decent person I've ever met. If I'm being honest, I don't know how things will turn out. I'm still hurt, I still feel betrayed, and my wife's facing her own challenges with low contact. But I want to be hopeful. I don't want to close the door. I'm hoping we can heal together. Thank you again to everyone for the support. I found not everything is as isolating as with the majority of my in-laws. It means more than you know.
I, 32 female, have a daughter. I'll call her Isla, 5 female. My brother Ben, 37 male, has a wife, Candace, 32 female, who has a daughter, Kaylee, 7 female, with her ex, who is not in Kaylee's life. Ben and Candace married when Kaylee was 4. Ben cares a lot about Kaylee, but Candace takes care of Kaylee financially and makes all the decisions about parenting, which is the arrangement they've agreed on, and no one questions that. My parents aren't fond of Candace. Of course, they're polite, and they're happy Ben is happy, but no one has really warmed to her. It's not for any particular reason. There just hasn't been a click on either side of the equation. Candace is not too fond of us at all either. Candace and Ben also live a few states away, so we don't see them very often. When Isla was born, my parents started a college fund for her. I told my parents when they started it not to do this, as my husband and I were putting aside enough money for education and in trust for Isa that she would be fully financed, but they insisted. They said they would pay for her college, and we could add any money we'd saved for her college to her trust. This is very important to them, so we agreed. Candace recently found out about the college fund and is livid. She thinks my parents owe Kaylee a college fund because she is their granddaughter too. Now, for better or worse, my parents don't see it that way. Apparently, Candace called my parents about this and asked Ben to put pressure on them to provide money for Kaylee, but they wouldn't budge. She is now calling me saying I should ask my parents to use Isla's fund for Kaylee, since we don't need the money, or at the very least, I should commit to using the money for Kaylee when the time comes. I don't think it would be right for me to take the money from my parents in bad faith and redistribute it against their wishes. Nor do I think it would be right to take something from my daughter which is of great value and importance to her grandparents, just because someone else feels entitled to it. I said all this to Candace, and she hasn't contacted me since. However, some relatives have said since I wouldn't miss the money, I should think about contributing at least some of the money to Kaylee's education. Am I the a-hole? She thinks my parents owe Kaylee a college fund because she is their granddaughter too. By some quick math computations and a basic understanding of biology, I'm coming up with Kaylee has 4 actual blood relation grandparents. If anyone is going to pony up a college fund, it should be them. And that being said, Isla's education fund is for her education. I highly doubt her endowment is enough to pay for an Ivy League law or medical degree, so it's about 15 years too soon to be saying she doesn't need it. Not the a-hole. The money isn't even yours to give. Not the a-hole. It's odd that she doesn't want her husband to contribute financially to her daughter, but she expects his family to. Not the a-hole. She thinks my parents owe Kaylee a college fund because. Let's just stop right there. Your parents don't owe Kaylee a damn thing. They can do what they want with their money. People can argue if, depending upon a given situation, if it's an a-hole thing for grandparents to give money to one and not the other, but they do not owe anyone anything. And Candace is an a-hole for coming to you asking to take money away from your daughter, especially since that goes directly against your parents' wishes. My wife, 50 female, and I, 56 male, have been together for 13 years, married for 10. Both have adult children from previous marriages that are well established, working, married, etc., except for one son still studying. She has a teenage daughter that lives with us, and we have a daughter together. My wife has only worked for a limited period of time during our married life. I have a fairly well-paying job that I actually like. We own a property that we rent out at the moment. It all sounds okay, so why do I feel like this? 1. My wife's ex does not pay child support except for school fees because of an agreement she made with him. I pay, wife has no income, for flights, etc., for my stepdaughter to visit her dad every school holiday. He earns more than $180K per year. Every time I bring this up, it usually results in a major fight. All she says is that you knew when you married me that it comes with the package. 2. My wife's son that is still studying receives study assistance from the government to the tune of $1,000 a month. He has a savings account of over $10K, yet my wife, no income, supports him to the tune of $300 a month, and his father's contribution is zero. At the moment, he lives with us due to a rental issue. He does not contribute at all. My wife buys his toiletries. She bought him clothes. He wants bottled water. We all drink filtered tap water. The list goes on. 3. Although I have a good job, I've had to put a career on hold because my wife refuses to move to another state for a promotion. She wants to be close to her adult children that reside in the same state. I've been offered a senior management position at my company. She said if you take the job, I will have to move without her. 4. The latest is that I must ensure that my wife makes provisions for her adult children as well. I have no relationship with them and have never had one. My will currently states that if I were to pass away before her, then 80% goes to her and 20% gets divided between my 2 adult children. If she was to pass away before me, then 40% goes to our daughter, 10% goes to my stepdaughter, and 25% each to my 2 adult children. Her will does not provide for my adult children as she does not currently have one. Her children stand to inherit substantial amounts from their father. She wants me to change my will so that all inheritance is split equally between all the children. I'm refusing to do it, and it is causing major friction. Am I the a-hole for telling her that it is not my responsibility to look after her kids from her previous marriage? And I refuse to do so any further. If she wants to contribute, then she either needs to find a job. She has a degree, and there is nothing wrong with her hands. Or she must move to another state for me to take up a better position. It will mean that she won't see her adult children as often. You're the a-hole, to yourself. Dude, you are a complete doormat, and based on everything you've posted, she is with you for your willingness to be her piggy bank. Not the a-hole. I cannot fathom why you are still with this lady. Do not alter your will. I would stop supporting her deadbeat kids too. It's so ridiculous. Not the a-hole. The key words here are her grown adult children. You don't know them crap, flat out. They are not entitled to anything from you just because you married their mother. You had no hand in raising them and have zero relationship with them. They have a metric crap ton of audacity to think you owe them anything. Ask her to make her own will and then make the same demands of her, that your grown adult children be put on it, and see how she reacts. If she refuses, then call her out on her double standard BS. Your adult children are no more entitled to her assets than her adult children are entitled to yours. The only children you should feel obligated to leave any money to are your biological kids or stepkids that are actually part of your life. I'm engaged to Anthony, and I've met his parents a number of times. I've always felt like they were very critical, and it was frustrating, especially because I feel like he's blind to just how critical and snippish they can be because he's used to them. But this year, I decided I'm not wasting my energy defending myself and justifying myself and trying to convince them to respect me. I decided to just be unashamed about myself, even the parts they are critical of. So this week we were visiting because it was his dad's birthday, and when we were there, his dad made a comment of me always coming across like a bit of a gold digger. Now, in reality, I don't think I am. I have a high-paying job of my own. I bought my own sports car in full. I pay half-hour rent, and I contribute equally to the shopping and utilities and bills. I buy most of my own clothes and bags and accessories. The only thing that might be borderline gold diggery about me is that when I was looking for a life partner, I wanted a partner with similar financial stability and responsibility. But I didn't explain all of that. I just giggled and said, "Damn right, looking this good doesn't come cheap." Now, this was a joke. I was dressed in a very understated outfit, but it kind of frustrated his dad, who asked if I really just said that. I just went, "Yeah, I grew out of messing with broke guys after college. I'm 28. I've got no time for that anymore." Later that night, his mom criticized the cookies I'd brought to the party for being too flat, and I joked that I was just glad they were edible and not the literally on fire special. His mom asked if I was a radical feminist proud of not knowing how to cook. And I go, "Yeah, I guess I would describe myself as a feminist, and I am proud of all the things I've put the time into learning. Honestly, cooking just hasn't been a priority yet, but maybe I'll learn sometime. Of course, this irritated them, and also made my fiancé wonder what I was saying. He pulled me aside and asked why I was making jokes about being a gold digger and not knowing how to cook, because that's not true at all. I contribute a lot financially, and also in the home. I said I just wasn't in the mood for an argument or a disagreement, so I was trying to brush off his parents' criticism with light jokes. He said that it was making me look bad, and I said, yeah, the stuff your parents have assumed about me isn't that flattering, but I really wish they'd stop bringing up so much critical stuff. He said he meant how flippant I was being, and I said that I was just too old to be having the same arguments. Sometimes you gotta realize after a while of butting heads, nothing actually changes, so I'm not interested in arguing anymore. He said that I was pushing them away right before the wedding. Am I the a-hole for unabashedly agreeing with my soon-to-be mother-in-law and father-in-law's criticisms? No. Not the a-hole, and I love this. They keep criticizing, and instead of arguing, you agree with them, and it's still somehow your fault. Make sure this guy is worth it because you're in for a lifetime of this at all the holidays and special occasions. Not the a-hole. Your fiancé, however, is a complete ducking a-hole for just letting them talk to you like that and not sticking up for you himself. Not the a-hole. Instead of being upset that his parents have been insulting you for what sounds like at least a year, your fiancé is upset that you aren't fighting with them? They're a-holes for sure, but your fiancé got upset that they were upset by not being able to hurt your feelings. This situation isn't great for you, honestly. Humor is a fantastic coping mechanism, and I support it. But your fiancé needs to get on board too. This will not magically get better after the wedding, and if it's your future plan, after you have children, it will get worse. He has to be prepared to defend you or shut them down. Long story short, my daughter turned out not to be my daughter. My ex-wife and I divorced and have been so for 5 years. My daughter turned 19 5 months ago, and I haven't had contact with either her or her mother, despite my ex-wife trying to insist. I get a call last week that my daughter suddenly had a stroke. I don't know how this could have happened at such a young age. Some doctors think it's her birth control. Others think it's a multitude of other reasons. Anyway, my ex-wife's mother calls and said that she has expressive aphasia incontinence and is unable to walk. She goes on this long spiel about how the therapy her grandchild is going to need is extensive and expensive, and that we both need to step up. However, my ex-wife and our daughter have always hated each other. My ex-wife calls and said that our daughter is the C word that ruined our marriage, and that she sure as hell wasn't going to subsidize her treatment. She tells me that I need to step up. However, as she made sure of, this isn't my kid, and I think it's enough that I had to pay child support for years on end for a child that wasn't mine. My ex's mother calls yesterday and asks why it is taking so long to get back to her, and I told her that if she wanted to preach about stepping up so much, she should get another mortgage on her house and pay for her granddaughter's treatment, because I wasn't going to be burdened with somebody else's mistake anymore. Now it's been a day, and the state of affairs is that 1. My ex-wife refuses to pay. 2. Her mother says that what she gets in retirement is barely enough for herself to survive on. However, both are calling me the a-hole for not stepping up. So, am I the a-hole? Because I think it is them that are being selfish once again, and it's almost as if my ex-wife thinks that putting her own daughter down will make me feel affection towards her again. A dumb and self-centered thought. Everyone sucks here, except the daughter. You presumably raised this child for years. How can you say she's not your daughter? You and your ex are both a-holes of the highest order. Everyone sucks here, except for your poor daughter. Yeah, that's right, your daughter. You raised her for 14 years, and you're just going to ditch her? Biology isn't what makes a parent. Then again, it doesn't seem like you or her mother have the hearts of parents either. That poor girl. You're the a-hole. By my math, you didn't find out that she wasn't biologically yours until she was 13 or 14 years old. Yeah, that's your daughter. You raised her. You're her father. She's an adult, and you don't have to pay her medical bills, but that's pretty ice cold. My entire life, my parents have made promises to pay for my wedding. As early as middle school, I remember my dad joking to his friends about when he can retire from his job because he has to save up for his 2 daughters' weddings. I tried to discuss budgets with them in February of 2020 while we were on vacation together, and they reiterated that they'll pay for my wedding, full stop. I asked if I had a smaller wedding if I could have the remainder of the budget, and they said no, they'll pay for my wedding. I asked what my budget was, and they said that we'd discuss it when the time came. In August of 2020 and onwards, I had been mentioning that my now fiancé and I were discussing engagement because he was now trying to see what the break-even point was for refinancing his townhouse. So they have had plenty of warning. But when I got engaged last month and told them what the average cost of a wedding in my state is, it's apparently more than double what they spent on my sister's wedding. So they said they can only afford to spend on me what they spent on her. A bit of background info. My parents paid for all of my sister's public in-state college that wasn't covered by her small scholarships or my grandparents' small contribution. I did not go to college, and my grandparents gave me the money, a few thousand, they had saved for my college. My parents didn't give me my college fund in any way. They just rolled it into their retirement. My sister got married 7+ years ago, literally days after her college graduation, in a rural area 3 hours west from where my parents lived in our hometown city. But it was where her husband's family is, and they were settled. I was living a 5-hour plane ride away at the time. Over the next few years, Dad retired. I moved back home, and then I moved a 5 hours drive north. My mom then retired too, and my parents moved 3 hours west to be near my sister when she started having her kids. My parents can definitely afford to contribute more. They have a big vacation every year, cruises, road trips, theme parks for 10 days at a time. They've been commenting that they can't travel this year because they have to pay for a wedding, but they're already planning trips for 2023 and 2024. So I've told them that they've told me for years now that my sister got all expenses paid for through 22 years old. But I've been on my own financially since I was 18 because she made different choices in life. To go to college. Well, these were my choices in life. To marry a white-collar man in a city in 2022 at 29, instead of a blue-collar man in the country at 2015 at 22. Why is it equity for her? Each receives according to their needs. But equality for me. They'll only spend on my wedding what they spent on hers. Based on that discussion, they upped their contribution somewhat. But my fiancé and I will still be responsible for about $10,000. Am I the a-hole for still being bitter every time I look at my wedding budget because it feels like favoritism to me? You're the a-hole. Apparently your sister was more mature in 2015 than you are in 2022. It seemed like you were judging your blue-collar brother-in-law also, but clearly proud of your white-collar man who can't afford to pay for his own wedding. I'm trying to figure out why she's putting down her sister's blue-collar husband when she didn't even go to college. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Everything about your post makes me uncomfortable. You only talk about money, money, and money. If you want a certain type of wedding, you should have saved money to make it happen yourself and not count on your parents.